Let's get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Today on the Prenup podcast with James Mallios, founder and managing partner of a Molly on the Upper East Side and Calissa and Charlie Fox in the Hamptons. So welcome to another episode of the Prenup podcast. I have my wonderful friend James here. James, give a little intro on yourself.
So I used to be an attorney. I am an attorney as long as I send my check every 2 years and myself or someone watches my CLE credits. And I also am managing partner of Calissa Restaurant in Southampton, Molly Restaurant in the city, and one of the members of the Charlie Fox team, which is a luxury cannabis brand.
So James is I always say this, he's a reformed lawyer, even though he still can practice. A lawyer who said, oh gosh, what am I doing? Now he's in the hospitality and cannabis space, which is way more fun anyway, right?
Yeah, especially because I think my kids have to be really straight-laced because what are they going to do? Like own a nightclub? They'll probably be like actuaries. Like, what are they going to rebel against? Like, what are they going to do? Like,
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids,
How old are they?
9 and 13. Yeah, I've told them, I've even, I'm like, Daddy does this. They're like, okay, cool. So should someone be in a situation where they, find themselves in a difficult marital position, I neither recommend additional children nor lives to watch over it.
Nor additional animals.
Or additional animals. Lives of any kind. Like maybe a goldfish, top level.
You've heard this whole thing, right? Dog nuts. It's
No.
like a trend now.
I'm serious.
Mhm.
Really?
People have been TikToking about it. Even if you get a dog before you get married, like who gets it? If you separate, all these crazy things and agreements. Yeah. People are more concerned than with their dogs and their children. It's like, I don't know what it says about society because I love dogs, but also what?
Well, also, I see, do you grow up with dogs?
Yeah, well, no, not with my mom, but my dad's girlfriend had dogs, so I love dogs.
Okay, got it.
But I never had the responsibility of one myself.
Yes. So I have never owned a dog. I've never owned well, I guess I briefly owned a dog.
Okay, so I think one of the things, that you and I have chatted about in the past is building businesses and building families. Give me a little bit of like, how did you grow up? What was your childhood like? What was your parents' marriage like?
Sure. I mean, I think I probably would fall into like a generation, not first generation, like a 1.5. So my dad came here 8, didn't speak the language type of stuff.
Yeah.
My mom's parents were both Greek, but they're still together. They still live in the same house I grew up with, stuff. And probably had an upbringing that was all those stereotypes of children of immigrants and all that sort of close-knit ethnic communities. When I saw my big fat Greek wedding, I've seen all those things. I've not necessarily seen them at one time together. I went to Bronx Science. My mom's a teacher. It was very school.
Yeah.
So she was super psyched when I quit being a lawyer. She was really happy about it.
She's still upset to this day.
She's still upset.
What is this restaurant thing?
She's still upset. I went from being like the Bronx Science, like Cornell, to like this every failure my parents never wanted.
Did you go to the Cornell Hospitality School or no?
No, but I think I'm going to start lying and say that I did because it like saves all sorts of secondary.
No, I actually think it's even better and more inspirational that you didn't go to school for it because I do think, my Hillstone background, it's like 90% of Hillstone is ex-Cornell hoteliers, which is great and wonderful. But I think, you kind of have this great leg up. And in a way, you didn't have that leg up at all. You went to Cornell, but you didn't go to the hospitality school. So this was really an organic situation of, wow, I actually love restaurants. I love food and I love this whole world and I want to get into it. And you didn't have the same setup as a lot of other people.
Yeah, I was working in a law firm and it wasn't for me. When I left, basically my friend was like, I'm like doing a restaurant in Wilmington. Like, do you want to like come?
In Wilmington?
Wilmington, Delaware, of all places. So I did like 2 years. Like it was like being in purgatory.
I did not know this story. Okay.
I called it Sony south of New York, but it's like way south of New York. Just weird place, man. Have you ever been to Wilmington?
Yeah, but not beyond like a day or two.
Not beyond board meeting or a Hotel DuPont, something.
Yes.
That's pretty much then you've seen Wilmington.
Okay. So you go to Wilmington for 2 years?
It might have been 3. I blocked. It was like trauma.
I mean, listen, that was like me in Arizona. People are like,
you're in Arizona?
Exactly.
Is that old?
Hillstone. Remember?
I
got transferred to
I think I forgot that.
Phoenix, Arizona from East Hampton in December.
That's like classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
Moving to Arizona on Wednesday, and I was like, where? Was it 50 states?
It's a classic shuttle back. Some people say it's Miami, New York. It's really Phoenix, East Hampton.
God, yeah. It was
how long in Phoenix?
7 months too long. The day that I left, I'll never forget, it was like 120 some degrees on my dashboard. And where I lived in the nicest building in this like area of Biltmore. And I lived right across the street from the restaurant, which I had thought was such a good idea.
Such a bad idea. So I did the same thing. The worst.
There was never a day I had off because if you had a day off, my GM was like, hey, the HVAC system's down. Can you go and let the guys in at 7 a.m.?
Yes.
Biggest lesson.
Yes.
Do not live across the street from your restaurant.
Yes. Even like 3 blocks, 4 blocks.
Still too close.
Yeah. You know, like, yeah, too poor. Yeah. I should say that. Sorry. You need like some appreciable, like.
Separation of church and state.
Yes. Correct.
You do 2 years in Delaware.
Yes.
And then what brings you back to New York?
I always want to come back to New York. And I think, I forgot the immediate circuit. I think basically I had to run it. I think at the time I was like 35. I was like 34. Not going to like.
Were you married at this point?
No. I was dating my kid's mom, and I always say like kid's mom.
I think that's
like,
the nicest thing for you to say. To be honest,
I've been trying to. I hate saying the word ex-wife. It's like to me, it's a very like
negative connotation.
It has a negative connotation.
Yeah, and I wish it didn't, but I will say you're the second dad that I've talked to that says my kid's mom. I think it's so lovely.
Thanks. I can't have it easy feel like a sort of like a. I've got like 7 kids with different baby mamas type of thing. But thank you, I appreciate that.
No, that's not what I thought at all.
Good. That's always my nervous. I'm like my kid's mom. I'm like.
No, I actually think that's like really kind and wonderful, and yeah,
thanks.
I love it. Okay, so you guys were dating.
I rarely win an Emily Post award, but I'll take these.
You won an Emily Post award for that. Okay, so you moved back to New York.
Yeah, I moved back to New York. I worked at like my grill, then I ran a place called Resto, which is like a Michelin gastropub, and then we opened a Molly in 2011. 2000, almost 15 years old. I should be 15 years.
It's like unheard of, especially in Manhattan restaurant world.
It's kind of crazy.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Shout out to Amali, by the way. If you ever want a really good spot also for private dining, you guys have one of the best, most, I would say, secret gems of New York private dining. Okay, so you're in New York, you open Amali, and then you and your children's mom get married.
Yes.
How many years ago was that?
Definitely well over 12 years ago.
So you'd already opened a restaurant. You were already a restaurateur. So props to her for marrying you, because marrying a restaurateur is one of the most challenging jobs. Chefs, restaurateurs.
It is not. To be extremely fair to her, like when we met, I was a lawyer, like, you know what I mean? Then I had this whole, went from white collar to not white collar, no weekends, all that stuff.
You're having a quarter life crisis. You're like, yes, I am.
Pretty much.
But it'll be fun.
Exactly.
It's going to be great.
So, yeah, definitely.
That lawyer salary?
Yeah, I was like, what was definitely advertised is not what
you signed up for.
Right, exactly. It's almost like the facade on that. It's like something else behind it. So, like, to be fair to her, it's not like.
Okay, but so you guys get married, and did you have a prenup?
No.
Okay, and then at the time when you got married, like, was it even a conversation, or were you just?
I had like nothing to like. I had nothing of consequence, protect.
And she didn't either. And so in your mind, even though you had a law degree. Okay, so there's no conversation of prenup.
No.
Did you get married in a traditional wedding at a church or?
Yeah, in church.
Did you
got married at church?
So did you talk to a priest before you guys got married? Did you go through the whole? Did you get married at a Catholic church, or what did you get? So you went through the whole.
Yeah, she got baptized because her parents were super Protestant. They forgot where they had like baptized her, and they couldn't find the baptismal certificate. Church basically is like, as long as you're basically baptized in the Holy Trinity, you can get married in a Greek church.
So she went.
Without a certificate, you can't.
Oh my gosh! So she went back and got baptized for you.
She did, yeah. It was like a cold plunge, but before a cold plunge.
Oh, you felt awesome. Cool. Yeah. Okay, so
free cold plunge.
Free cold plunge. She was ahead of her time.
Ahead of her time. Basil water cold plunge.
It was not a waterboard. It was a cold plunge.
For her, I'm sure it felt like waterboarding.
For her, oh my gosh. Okay, so you get married.
Yep.
And then how soon after marriage do you guys have kids?
I should know these numbers like by heart. I'd probably say like 2 or 3 years, something like that. Yeah, something like that. Lowe's born in. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Born in. So like 2 years.
So your daughter was born 2 years in, and all.
Yeah, about 2 years. Yeah.
Your daughter was born 2 years in.
2 years in.
Okay. And then you had a second child.
Yeah.
When did Thane start feeling, I don't know if the word strength, like a lot of people have used different words. One person I interviewed was, for me, it was, I finally felt an imbalance. Another person said we were no longer in harmony. And then another person said it was a show.
Bring 2 people together oftentimes have very little to do with, or in fact, not just have very little to do with, have zero to do with running a home.
Totally.
It's like running a business. It's like, so I think that it was definitely, if you throw like restaurant life, which is not easy, right? I do, so I work very hard.
Yep.
And I think that as you, and a lot of times this probably will resonate with a lot of people. Like it's, you send your kids to nice school, all of a sudden, okay, you have to work harder. You work harder means you're home less. Like, I think with that, there are two things which is, I think maybe appropriate for this, or I don't want to speak for anyone, but
No, but
like, I think because people think, well, I'm not that way, or I'm not, this won't happen to me, or whatever that goes through their
everyone
mind.
thinks this won't happen to me.
Right. Correct. Everyone has that feeling. So I'd say it was a combination of two things. COVID was just a train wreck emotionally.
Because you guys also had never actually probably spent that much time together pre-COVID because you were always at the restaurants
Yep.
doing what you were doing and she worked, right?
But then when COVID happened, it was also like the stress of like where restaurants were under was so severe.
Everything was falling down around you.
Like everything was falling down. I didn't know.
The industry was getting absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, we thought, I don't even know if I'll be able to like pay my mortgage tomorrow. Like towards the end of COVID, I got into a bad car accident.
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
How did I miss this?
I don't know. At the time
Same, but different.
we just leased a new car for the business. It may have been like 2 months old. I don't even know. And I remember I was driving on the LIE and basically I looked up and my beams, what they did, they killed their lights. So my beams came off the back of the
And you were commuting back
car.
from out here.
Yeah, I was going back from out here.
I hate that drive.
And I remember
to
just
begin
the
with.
beams coming off and I was like, okay, this house all goes down 8 o'clock on, see you later.
That must have been so scary.
It was scary. Yeah. And I got really bad stuff, miraculously survived without any real, I should have been like cream. I went to the doctor. And I remember the doctor said, basically, she said, you broke your brain, basically, is what happened. Oh, yeah. So then it happens. She's like, so imagine you broke your legs. Can you go to a beach and not do anything for six months?
Does she know what restaurants are?
Yeah. I was like, no, it's.
Does she know what restaurants in the Hamptons?
Yeah, I know. No, it's COVID. There's still COVID. No, I can't not work. She's like, your brain will heal, but it will heal in the same way as if imagine you walked on a broken leg. Or like you couldn't like
It's
not
gonna take
walk.
way longer and
Take
it's
way
gonna be scarred forever.
longer. It's scarred and it will fix itself, but it will take a long time. So I think those two things, those two like completely outside of our situation compounded and made whatever issues we were having that much worse. And
And at this point, you also had two children, young children.
young children. It's just not a great scene.
I don't want to lead the question here because this has been something that I've noticed in the past year. Oftentimes, it does seem like after the first kid, things can be challenging and hard for both partners in the relationship. Life changes, capacity changes, time changes, priorities change. There's a lot of changes after the first kid, but usually you can balance one kid because you kind of can play defense together.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have that second kid, it's like, oh gosh, one person has to watch one, the other has to watch the other. And then you're kind of in this siloed situation where it's one for one.
I think there's a period of time when the two siblings, once the second child, let's call it 5. I'm just making the number up, right? Then the two will entertain one another. But that period of time between 0 and 5 is, I think, immensely difficult.
Exhausting.
It's exhausting. I say with no negative. I don't think anyone would say that with negativity towards their children, but
No.
it is, to say that it is not challenging is to not be truthful.
Because it's also
Does that
both
make
of those
sense?
children need you guys completely as
Yeah.
parents. Like there's
Yeah.
no,
Especially if there's call it a, I think with my children around a 4-year age difference, need to be constantly monitored and monitored in different ways. Like, you know what I mean?
you can't have one in the left hand and one in the right. And then because they're completely different energies and needs and all of it.
Yeah. And I call on anyone who says, oh, if you help or you like 5 nannies. So then what? So then you are not with your, like, I don't like buy that as like, I don't find that to be a credible.
That isn't always the fix.
That is not always the fix. And that comes with a different set of mess.
Financial responsibility,
Financial or emotional, or then your kids never around. You know what I mean? So I don't buy that as a catch-all or whatever you want to call it. I don't buy that.
Yeah. All this stuff.
If you care about your children, want to be around them. If you do not, then it is not a problem. But if you have some essence of like evolutionary desire to see,
Spend quality time.
get your emotional, moral compass, you even have a base level of evolutionary desire to see your progeny continue, then.
So everything happens during COVID.
Yep.
When do you finally start having the discussion with your partner that this is not maybe going to be the forever situation that we thought it was?
Someone who like doesn't have a filter, doesn't have a lot of, or doesn't lead life with a like filter. But I think we both put in a very good faith effort, therapy and stuff to really try to. I'll speak for myself, but I think this is a shared opinion. I think sometimes when things are very challenging at home, people will say, "I will stay in it for the quote for the children." but I don't know if you're projecting the worst version of yourself. I'm not sure that is. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to say it a better way. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think that a lot of people I've talked to have said, oh, we stayed in it longer than we should have because we wanted to make it work for the kids. But the reality seems to be, from all the science and the research over the past few years, is if you and your partner aren't happy together, how are your kids going to be happy? So if you're in a marriage that you're pretty miserable in, like, kids pick up on that energy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I want to be like, one thing I may say unequivocally is that if unfortunately things atrophy between two people who love each other, got married, and assuming that they were legitimate when they did it, I don't think that everyone has their like hand in the cookie jar decisions. Like,
Mm.
no, I have rarely seen a life situation where like it is like wildly one sided.
Completely,
They exist,
completely
but
agree, though.
they exist, but I think the preponderance of the situations are some version of comparative negligence.
But also, a lot of times, what it is, it's the final straw is always a symptom, not the reason. All these other things happen. And then there may be one thing that people decide to try to use is like, this is the reason we got divorced. No, 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 no. That's the straw that broke the camel's back.
Correct.
And you could harp on it as that's the reason, but that probably wouldn't have happened. All the other pieces of the puzzle were working.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And what I think that when the accident happened, and one of the only good things about it, and I do try to remember this as much as I can. Sometimes life is based on I could be gone tomorrow. So
Yeah.
is this the way? Are you happy? Am I happy? Is this the way that we should be? So I will say that incident definitely for me was like trigger, whatever you want to call it,
Reevaluate.
to reevaluate. So, but I will say we have a very good parent. She's a great mom.
That's amazing.
So
And I love that. And I
like,
was just talking this morning. I spent the weekend with my friends. They're both awesome and wonderful, and they're both divorced, in a relationship together, but they both have kids from their previous marriage. And one of the things that we were saying, is yeah, both of their ex partners can drive them up the wall and it's exhausting. There's things that they do that just blow their gaskets off. But the reality is, as long as that person is a really good parent to their children, 90% of the things that they do can be forgiven if they are a really good parent to the children, because that's all that matters in the end. And at the end of the day, if you can respect each other and co-parent well together, everyone's going to be happier in the end.
but you hit on something that I think people don't talk about in advance. Is, does it mean to be a good parent? We definitely had disagreements about. I'll tell you a story. I remember one time my daughter did not want to wear her coat to school, just refused. It's just things like
I
and
wonder where she gets that from.
like both sides. So she just refused to wear the coat. And I was like, okay, you don't have to wear it. It was like 10 degrees. Let's go to school. My wife at the time was basically, you're mad. How can you go out in 10-degree weather? And I had to put my bag on. So sure enough, my daughter within 10 seconds was like, it's freezing. I'm like, I know, here's a coat. But like her feeling was like to have her go out at all.
Force her into the coat before she goes out.
Right, correct. And my attitude was like, let her figure out the coat is not. Now I did this with my son. That stuff walked 5 blocks and was like, don't need a coat. You like literally walked. And I was like,
Freezing his butt off.
freezing out. And I make light with that story. One can be a good parent, but have very different opinions
Parenting
on what that style. And I think it's not something people may talk about, but they may also glad hand each other about it. Like, anyway, it's something that I think is really worth discussing in earnest with transparency.
No, I think this is another thing.
It's hard that you break up someone because there's some future putative child that like don't.
Totally, but I
very
do.
hard-
There's a really interesting thing to be said, like, which a lot of couples don't talk about pre-marriage, is discipline.
Yeah,
Soft discipline versus hard discipline versus how my parents raised me versus how your parents
yes,
raised you. Because it's easy to talk about my relationship with my mom today is very different than my relationship with my mom growing up, right? Yeah, she's my best friend, but oh my God, as a teenage girl, I was a lot. And then also I have a stubborn streak and I can
shut up.
be,
Go ahead.
I can be really, where'd you get that? And you've met my mom on Zoom. So it's funny though, because my relationship with my mom today is really different than my relationship as a child, obviously. And how she parented me is so different than how my dad parented me. And to that point, I actually think that that was one of the breakdowns of their relationship. Was also, there's definitely some things to be said, about father daughter relationship versus a mother daughter relationship
Sure.
early on versus the whole thing.
Yeah. I think a lot of those stereotypes are true.
Yes. But I do think there's something to be said about people do not have the conversations about how to parent and what the expectation of a good parent technically is. And like,
Yep.
there's really no, people aren't doing a framework. I was just reading, someone just sent me this thing. It was 36 questions to ask your partner to fall in love with them. Not one in there was, how do you want to raise your kids? Right. And of those 36, it should be probably 100 questions of, is this how you'd raise your kid? Right. In this situation, what would you do? In this situation, what would you do? Now, of course, it's going to change probably after you have kids, but at least have some of the
Yeah, I
early combos.
think it's very hard to have an analytical conversation about, like, in a sense, a business or a child before. That's why I think that those are very similar things. You're having a great time with them. You love them. You have great, everything is great. You're having like a hypothetical, like what happens in the future. It's a
Yeah.
very hard conversation to have, and even harder. Well, it might not be hard to have it. It's very hard to act on it in that moment
Yes.
if everything else is,
But maybe there's a layer to, I mean, you and I have chatted about prenups and you were so fortunate that your marriage, we'll talk about your
yeah,
actual divorce soon, but the way that yours played out because you're a lawyer and also because it sounds like you have a very level-headed partner. You ended up on after a little bit of time on a good side. But there's something to be said about beyond just the financial conversations of a prenup. What is something that you would want to ask your partner if you were going to get married again, right? Whether it's how do you raise kids or how do you value family time or how much time do you want me to be at home or how do holidays look like for you? Or say one of our parents gets sick, is it
sure,
our
sure.
responsibility to take care of them or do we send them
Right.
somewhere?
I don't know that you're going to get a true answer to that question, or at least an answer that one. What I do think you can do is think critically about the background that someone has and what their feelings are. I'll give you a very small example. I remember this sounds very trite, but it's something that. So I remember his mom would say that like her mom would make multiple dinners. Like the dad liked one thing and
Mhm.
she didn't like one thing, and the sister liked another thing, and she'd make like three dinners. My house like there was one dinner. If you didn't like it,
You don't,
you don't eat or you zero. There was no like
yeah.
discussion about it. So I grew up with that mentality. She grew up with the mentality of make the third dinner. Neither one, I don't want to say one is the right way or whatever. I don't
But those
fucking
are
know.
two very different ways of handling the situation.
Very different ways in that situation. Way I would answer your question is it's not so much the answer, but maybe thinking critically about what one's experiences were and whether one in hindsight appreciates or rejects those experiences. My dad, which I've told them, it's no secret, is a very critical person. Very critical. I probably am drawn to that perversely to that in life. I'm drawn to
People criticize you
yeah,
because you're so used to it.
because I'm so used to it.
But
And
you're also not a super critical person.
right. So
You went the opposite.
right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So some people go the opposite, some people follow. So what I'm trying to say is, as best as one can, to have a critical analysis of this is the experience. It's different than what I had. Does this person embrace that experience, or do they reject it and then do the experiences align? Is
Mhm.
probably the way I would phrase it.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good way to look at it. I like that.
Thanks.
It's look, see, your brain's not totally broken after all.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly.
You just went through the thick of it
Right.
recently. No prenup. And because you're a lawyer, you obviously knew that if you guys went to court, it would be chaotic.
Yes.
How did you avoid that?
I have very strong feelings on this answer. If one has children, let me say the criteria. If one has children, and if one's criteria, it may not be. Some people may say my happiness is equal, or my happiness is more, and I cast no judgment if
Mhm.
that is their criteria. But if your criteria is that my children's happiness is more important than my own, if that is your criteria, then I feel that the filter that you should use for every decision is, does this disrupt or not disrupt my children's existence? Does that make sense? So
100%.
so I think for me, I will pick the path of least disruption, no matter and I'm not saying I'm a martyr. I'm just saying like that was my value.
Yes.
I'm not sure where that will, land me in a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, 4 years. I mean, I expect there will be like some sort of toll that will come from that, but you just have to be at peace with so my value criteria was what is the least disruptive thing for my children, period, end of story, full stop. I've been a lawyer, and I would say even though I only practiced for 6 years, the hundreds of cases that I litigated or settled, I count on one hand the amount that I was like, you know what, that was worth it.
Yeah.
Meaning like not an early settlement. That was like
Worth the fight.
worth the fight. I can think of one, two, three strong answers to that out of hundreds.
That's wild.
Like,
But that's also so true. By the time, I mean, the reason I started this company is my parents both filed for bankruptcy at the end of their divorce.
I believe it.
There was no money left.
Yeah.
And the only people that suffered were my mom, my dad, and I.
Yeah.
And the lawyers made with a ton of money. And it was
So,
no one's fault because everyone just got in the way of each other.
yeah. Look, I get it. We've all been in probably situations that are adversarial, unfortunately, at times. And you're like, I should fight, or I shouldn't give up, or if I'm weak, if I don't give up, or whatever this we're
Mhm.
married with, it is, right?
But maybe giving in now is a long-term win because at the end of the day, for you, you really created the least disruption possible by agreeing to, I mean, you gave up a lot financially, but
Because of the industry that I'm in, I gave up so many things that people think are normal. I gave up Saturday nights 15 years ago. I gave up New Year's Eve 50 years. I gave up so many, not gave up, like I stopped caring about things that to other people are very normal to care about. I was more at peace with saying, oh, you want Christmas? Okay, fine. You want Thanksgiving? Fine. Whatever. I don't know.
make
I
it
worked,
quick and just be done.
yeah, I work holidays. So to me, like I work in the summer. Maybe for me, it was easier to like do that.
But even though besides that, because you and I have talked about this a bit, which is I think sometimes people fight so much for something that they think they're owed when the reality is if everyone is living a decent life with decent salaries, decent income, kids are happy, they're sheltered, they're clothed, and they're loved. What are you really fighting about in the end?
I remember saying, because one of the two major asset classes that we had was we had the
Yes.
businesses, then we had an apartment that we owned that I bought
In New York
in
City,
New
in
York City,
Manhattan.
in Manhattan, and we had an apartment that was a real asset, and then there were the businesses, which are hard assets, but they're also intangible, right? They could be, I remember the businesses. I said, I have no argument about what you did contributed. That it's an asset and you contribute. But what I know is that someone could wrap their tree around, could leave Calissa and wrap their car around a tree, or we get sued for whatever. And I've spent most of my adult life shielding you and the children from that liability. Maybe in my situation, it was easier because I was like, unless you want to share in that liability, which I'm pretty sure though I wouldn't want to share in liability of something I was
Mhm.
not in that capacity. I don't know. I don't think a sane person would.
Oh,
And to me, the hard asset was like, whatever, man, as long as it goes to kids on me.
yeah.
I was like, I don't care. Like, what am I like to be right? I don't know.
I was just talking to someone about this where we have a friend who's going through a kind of a crazy divorce and there's a big inheritance situation. The parents are about to
Right.
pass away. It's a generational wealth situation. And it's like, you know what? Trying to go through this divorce. If we put it in a trust for the kids are going to get it even if they die tomorrow, it's still for the kids. It's
Yeah.
not going to go to you or I. And their partner is fighting over what's fair and what's right. And my big thing has been, and the partner used the word, well, this is what's fair and this is what's right. And I think the biggest thing that I probably learned in this past year of digging deeper is divorce is never fair or right. And a lot of people have this misconception that I'm trying to build this awareness and company to make divorce easy. Yes, I'm trying to let people get out of situations that they shouldn't be in a much easier way. But my hope is honestly that like you sign a prenup, you go get married, and you're so set up for your future that you actually don't get divorced because
Yeah.
you have a better chance of living a long, happy, successful life together because you've gone through so much prior to even getting married and laid it out on the table. And if, God forbid, you need to get divorced, then you should be able to get out of it.
Well, I think that the crux is that as much as like harsh, marriage has a business element to it,
It is.
right? You own a home, you own an asset, you manage the asset, you have children, you
Mhm.
have. It's almost like having a dividend. You want to make sure that your child survives. Like,
Yes.
call whatever you want. And some of there's a very business element to it, and I think in business and in marriage, everyone goes into wanting to talk about all the good things that will happen. Well, we split the money. I remember the best advice I got from attorney was there's only one thing that matters in an operating agreement or a marriage is how you get out. That is so much more important than
Getting in.
getting in. Like, how do you get out and what is the process for getting out?
When you got married to your wife, did you read because you got married in the state of New York?
Mhm.
When you went in to get your license, did you read what the license even said?
No. I think I got married in California. Actually.
Did you read what the agreement said?
Like, no idea. The lawyers will joke the one thing you have to know for the bar for family law is best interest of the child. That's the only thing that matters. The only thing that a divorce court will look at is best interest of the child. But I was aware that like should it come to an adversarial situation that will be adjudicated would be what would be in the best interest of the child. That is always the gold standard
Yeah.
of those situations.
But isn't it wild also in a way that the best interest of the child is left up to possibly a judge and or someone you've never met, who's never understood your family, who doesn't know the left, right, or center, and that your representation has only known you for a little bit of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I would. That's why I would never let it get to that. I think it's like madness. Also, as a litigator, you're like to go to trial. I think if you're a great litigator, to go to trial is like
You failed,
like
especially with children. You should have just settled.
the main reason I stopped practicing law was when I litigated. Except for those 3 cases, we made money. I did employment law. People say that literally right behind divorce law in terms of the toll it takes on attorneys and the toll it takes on the clients. Well, it's literally divorce is like your employment is like behind it with a bullet.
I can't even imagine the emotional.
Because everyone's like, oh, but I did do a good job. I didn't deserve to be fired. I deserve to be compensated. You know what I mean? That same we talked about. We said I'm owed, right? That is pervasive in employment law. It's pervasive in family law. That concept of what I am owed. I'm owed X.
And it's so classic because I keep harping on this, but there is nothing fair about divorce. There isn't. And like, no one wants to go get divorced, but sometimes life happens.
I gotta say, I obviously conceive of situations where that makes more sense. But I guess to me, I can only speak for what they say in the DI language. I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
So speaking for myself, I'll say very no holds, whatever. I was aware that the decisions that I was making might potentially, for a period of time, make me a very unattractive prospect for a woman. But I think people have to ask themselves, what do they value? And to me, I value freedom more than I value money. For me, money comes, money goes. Happiness and freedom are not.
Yep.
I don't know if that makes sense or not.
No, it does. I told you, I think about that guy that I had met who gave up the house, gave up majority of their savings, all of it. And all he got was his 401k and one other thing. And he's a 1.5 bedroom in New York after having this gorgeous house up in Westchester. And their divorce costs under $50,000 because he had a moment. He was like, I could go to court and fight for that house or fight for this or fight for that or fight for custody or whatever it is, or I can rebuild. He's like, and I wanted to rebuild and I wanted to be free and I wanted to be able to date again and I wanted to be able to figure out what my next chapter was going to be. And I couldn't do that if I was in litigation for the next 2 to 3 years of my life.
Yeah.
Or 3 to 5.
Yeah. I think that on some level, and again, the point of this podcast, the point of everything is to not find yourself in the situation.
Not be in that situation because you would have signed a prenup. Yeah, he didn't have a prenup.
Yeah, there's a level of humiliation, failure. Like, I firmly believe the marriage again, barring there are situations where it was an abusive situation, right? That's I'm throwing that out, right?
Yes.
You have a partner, God forbid, a business partner that steals from you.
Yes.
Or commits a crime.
Yep.
Right. I'm throwing all that stuff out. Like I'm not putting those in the calculus.
Yes.
I'm talking like a garden variety just didn't go the way you thought it was going to go, which is probably 80% of the, and that was a lot of it with employment law. A lot of it was,
it just doesn't work.
So many times I remember thinking as the advocate, I'm like, I don't know if this is because maybe it's because you're a woman, maybe because, but it sounds to me like you all didn't like each other.
And you just didn't vibe anymore.
And just work wasn't working out, man. Like
didn't work.
Liked each other, and you'll go back and they sort of when they look for what they're owed or pinpoint. But I guess for the purpose of this, I don't know what's helpful for your listeners. But I would say that what is, in my opinion, speaking for myself, you have to decide what matters to you. And what I can definitely say, years of practicing employment law, it extracts such a serious toll that whether it's a business situation or family, the fighting extracts toll and takes you away from, it literally focuses all your energy on negativity.
Yeah.
And it's I think, my opinion, again, 3 out of hundreds. That's all I'll keep coming back to. 3 out of hundreds.
Worth the fight.
3 out of hundreds of litigations are worth the fight. And anything one can do it is so much easier, as hard as a conversation may be, to have it in the moment of bliss. It is so much better to think about how one extract, as hard as it is.
So would you ever want to get married again?
That's a good question. I guess it.
And if you were to get married, would you get a prenup this time?
That's a good question. I didn't think about that. I'm actually embarrassed. I just seen that question coming.
I mean, I have been. How did you not see that coming?
I know, right? I told you about the accident. I did go to Bronx side. No, I'm just kidding. I think this is what I would say. I think when people think prenup, they think talking always about, it's a very money focused discussion. I don't think yes, that is part of it. but I don't think that's the sum total of the situation. I think it's very hard to think of a world where I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked if I didn't do it, if I didn't have one. I don't know what it would.
But that's kind of what you and I
If I met someone with like a fucking like generational wealth, and they're like, "Let's just get married," I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." Like, you know what I mean? So like, I don't know, I'm sure there's situations where I would say like, "Oh, like why?"
but I do think there's something you said about yeah, you still won't have access to it, James,
Yeah,
without a prenup.
yeah, irrevocable trust. Yeah,
Yeah, you'll
so,
still be screwed in court.
yeah. So
So yeah,
I think I'd be like, "Oh wow, like you have like $100 in the bank, you don't want a prenup?" I'm sure. I mean, like I guess think about with David Geffen, like married that guy. Like if I okay, so
oh
okay,
god, that's so bad.
so the situation I would guess,
I forgot about the
my,
David Evans. So many people sent me that, and that gave me the ick.
I guess when you have like
And
fucking
the
eight,
guy's also not going to end up with anything because
yeah,
he's full of it.
and also when you have $8 billion and you're like 82, you're like, who gives? Like I don't know.
Like he's going to fight him to the end because he's like, you're not going to get a penny. So
Oh yeah, he'll drag that out for forever. He'll litigate that state of zero. Let me give you an exculpatory answer. I guess if I like shipping baroness was like, yes, James, I love you, and I do not care that my family fortune is unsecured by a prenup. I would be like, oh, well, okay, I guess sure, no problem. I'm like a Molly, like dynastic Greek shipping wealth. You know what I mean? In that situation, I wouldn't, but like in any like normal, I'll call it like vaguely normal situation, I think it'd be wildly,
especially with kids.
especially with kids. Yeah, especially with kids. Well, sorry, yeah, I didn't even think about that. Sorry, I just my assumption.
Yeah.
Especially if kids were on the table, then I would just certainly. I mean, just a base. It could be literally as simple as like
Mine is mine. What's yours is
what's
yours.
yours, and everything else is 50-50. It could literally be that.
Yeah.
It's for holidays. Like it could even be just 2 pages of at least framework. Even that is better
And never having the discussion.
than nothing. It doesn't have to be like putting everything out to the penny
Yep.
or to the whatever, but to not have a base level of.
And to also not have that conversation before getting married.
Oh yeah,
We even talked about it earlier, right? Which is like other things beyond the finances, which are so important, maybe even more so sometimes than the finances, because the finances are tied to how do you want to raise your kids? How do we want to split holidays? Like, what are your love languages? All these little things. How do you deal with chaos?
yeah.
You know, if one of our parents dies, what do we do? If one of our parents gets ill, what do we do?
That's a very big one. I think that's very because there were some people who are like nursing homes. My mother would rather have me feed her cyanide than put her in nursing home. Like I'm not kidding. The worst thing I could ever do to my mother is to be like, "You're going to nursing home." I think she would die because I would break her heart. I think my recommendation: don't overthink the level of the prenup. It does not have to be.
Prenups aren't negative, right?
Yeah.
Like they're actually really generous.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this like super detailed. What you just said, mine's yours. I think we accumulate in the middle. We split down the middle. If we have a kid, here's the broad 5 strokes, 10 strokes of the thing. At least then, even if you are arguing later, at least you're arguing within a confine of a box.
And you can be like, hey, when we were in love, this is what we said.
Yeah.
So let's get back to that.
Yeah.
Let's track back every time.
So I'll tell you, it's wildly expensive anyway. So even afterward, the aftermath of divorce.
Yeah.
Expensive. I agree with you. Even if you have a box, it probably has a better chance of. If you look and you're like, oh, this is what happens if I don't make this work.
It hopefully makes you even work harder at the marriage. Be like, let's figure this out.
Yes. I think that is actually something that, I don't know how you like edit these fun things, but I think that's a huge takeaway. It's not just, it can not only be a way to reduce stress, it can be, or reduce the exit
Chaos.
It can be a useful, positive tool. It's like, how many times have we gotten wasted and made dumb decisions?
Mm-hmm. Especially in the industry. Mm-hmm.
Like people make dumb decisions. It can be a good way to keep rational people in a box that they should stay in.
Yes.
So I guess I would say my answer to your question is
it can even set you up for better success.
Yes. So I would say 100% I would, because I think people think of it just from the money. It's not just
money.
And I think that my other answer would be that it's just, again, barring my shipping errors example. Which,
yeah, your shipping errors is your exception to the rule.
Yes.
Yes.
Like she's like the progeny of some
yes.
So one of the
Onassis or whatever. Barring her, it's
barring some shockingly disparate like situation that is almost you want to tell the person you should really get the prenup.
Yeah,
barring that.
Where's your lawyer?
Barring that situation, barring the David Geffen situation, and even then, as you pointed out, it's ridiculous. It's hard for me to think that I'm going to work for
10 years, 15 years now.
I don't know the intricacies of the business that you're running, but what I can say is that I would imagine that there would probably be like some very simple, straightforward part of it that is non-confrontational and at least gives you some ability of a box or parameters that people should listen to.
Yeah. And the idea right now is just to normalize it.
Oh yeah, there's a huge stigma.
Huge. Even I'm laughing. I have these hats. James is going to get one after this.
Oh good.
They're in there. They're in the car. Oh,
Oh,
oh actually, no, I have one.
I never wear hats. So I'll wear it
Well,
for you.
you're gonna look.
I'll wear it for you.
That's yours.
Oh, I'm gonna wear
You have to
this.
make it bigger. That's yours.
I know because I'm from Prague, Greece. And
I mean,
big hats
listen,
for
my
us.
dad used to tell me I had a dinner head. So here we are. You and I. Look at that.
So, no,
I'm so excited.
I'm gonna wear it.
Yes. You look so good at it. And it's so funny. So I'm walking around Tribeca in these hats, and a lot of people look and they're like, I think they think it says like Penn or Princeton at first. And so they'll look at me and be like, and I have a few, I filmed a few times where I've been doing a selfie, and there's a guy in the background who's turned around, and you can tell that they're trying to figure out, did that actually just say Prenup on it, which is the best. So I actually kind of love the rawhide hats.
Thank you.
So I end all of my pods with Vessels and Muses, which is my friend Zoe. And I feel like every time everyone picks the card that's meant for them. And
It's very exciting. I like this. Okay. This one here. Forgiveness with the naked woman.
Well, I mean, that's a good. Well,
It's like me asking for forgiveness from the naked woman. That's how I interpret that. I'm sorry. Sorry, this was just.
do you want me to have that frame for you?
Yeah. Can I have
I'm
this?
just going to keep you. You can keep the
Yeah.
card.
I love this.
That's what
No,
you
I'm
want.
gonna give it back to you, but I want to frame this.
Yes.
And, like put it up and be like, that's like, oh, I'll put it. Be
That's
like,
your aura
forgiveness.
for 2025. I'm so sorry. Okay.
Actually, that was. I said that once too. I woke up at like 5 a.m. on St. Bart's on the beach with a woman who had literally been a lesbian for the last 7 years. And I didn't know how I got there. And I remember saying, I'm so sorry. I don't know, like what I was so wasted. I was like, I don't know what happened last night, but please don't give up on men generally for whatever I did. I'm asking your forgiveness. So anyway.
That's on brand.
Yes.
I love this. Okay. There's freedom on the other side. Giving is a verb. It's an act of being and living. Forgiveness is a cultivated practice for your peace. Choosing time and again to take the high road. Wow, this is really on brand for you. This card asks that you forgive whatever is coming up for you so that you can make space for what's coming next. Holding on is holding you back and draining your precious life force energy. Let go and open the door to the unseen magic of what is waiting to pour into your life.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, you're not supposed to answer. This is for you. I feel like
you photograph it?
I'm gonna actually send you a box of these. It's been really interesting. Everybody has picked a card that really identifies with what they're going through at the moment. And these have been, I actually met her last summer in the Hamptons when I was living out here, when I was going through my own life crisis, figuring out my future with partners and all. And she has just been there of that. Also, I mean, yeah. Okay.
All right.
You're the
You're the
best.
best.